Hey, how's it going? It's been a little while since I have actually made what feels like a real video. I think it's been a couple months at this point, and the video I put out of me talking about games was being made over, I mean, technically a year if you count playing the games, but actually making it was probably around 4 months of me making that video. So I actually slowed down a lot about midway through 2024 because, I mean, I've said this before, I feel like twice this point, but I think I've gained a little bit of imposter syndrome. I don't like to feel preachy or like I know what I'm talking about because I don't. And at the end of the day, I just want to sort of just talk about stuff I'm going through and hopefully if anyone else is going through something similar, they can derive some sort of meaning from this, right? It's something I've always struggled with. It's something that I've wanted to make a video about for probably since as long as I've been doing this is my inability or struggle to communicate my emotions properly. And I'm sure this is something that most people experience. I think we all have, an ideal version of what we wish we could say in our head. And then when it comes to actually verbalizing those emotions or feelings or thoughts, it's really hard and it usually doesn't come out right. Which I think is ironic coming from me because I have, I think almost 40 videos at this point about me talking about my emotions and my feelings. And you'd think that I would have gotten better at it. And I think I have, but it's still something that every time I sit down to talk to a friend or, make a video like this, I'm not entirely sure that I'm getting my point across. I feel like I have to reiterate multiple times that I'm not sure if there's really a point to, making this video, or I hope you were able to get something out of this or whatever, because no matter how thoroughly I communicate my emotions, it doesn't really feel like I'm able to convey the depth to which I am feeling those feelings. And I've always been so self-conscious about this. It feels like no matter who I'm talking to, no matter how I try and communicate my feelings, I am not able to truly communicate and get everything off my chest. There are, none that I can remember, but, very few times where I feel like I confide in somebody or put my feelings out there and it feels relieving. Like I feel like I've done something. I feel better. I don't know what it is. One thing I've said before to friends and stuff is that sometimes I wish I could cry, which sounds a little weird, but I don't cry. Like, I really don't. I feel emotions very deeply. Like I'll watch shows, I'll play video games that really affect me emotionally, but I'm never brought to tears. For example, the manga Goodnight Punpun is my favorite manga of all time and has basically changed my life and my outlook on life. And I remember after I finished reading that, I didn't feel the same for like a week. Like I, just felt myself zoning out and just thinking about the ending in that universe over and over again. But I was never brought to tears. I think one of the only shows to do it was Anohana, which I watched in 2020 and was generally just very emotionally unstable during that time. So I think that's why. But, at least in terms of media, I'm never really, I feel like I'm just sort of sitting there blank faced most of the time, even if I have some, deep feeling in my stomach. Like I could be having the worst butterflies of my life, but my face will be stone cold. And the same goes for when I'm trying to talk to people or explain my feelings. It almost feels like I'm putting on a show, like I'm having to act. Even in these videos, I am projecting my voice. I am changing how I usually communicate. Every once in a while, I will live stream, and it is very rare. And if you ever are to tune into one of those live streams, you will see that my voice is usually much softer. I am much more monotone, and that is usually how I present myself. That is just how I've always done it. And it makes trying to come off as serious or meaningful or like I am really trying to convey something that is important and that is meaningful to me very hard. And that I feel like I sort of have to project my voice more, sort of to put on a show or act a little bit, sort of like I do in these videos, but to people in real life. And it never really feels like I am being honest, even with the people that I am closest with. And I don't think it's anything to do with them. I think it is entirely to do with me. I think as a kid, I never really confided with my parents or my friends. I think only within the past, 4 to 3 years have I truly grown a tight-knit friend group. And it's only a small group of people. Before then, I was pretty isolated. Even though I had a large group of friends and I was talking to people every day, it was never really anything crazy. I made a video before where I talked about, my friendships and always having to be ironic or always trying to be funny. And that's sort of what I was getting at in that video. A lot of my friendships were, I don't want to say superficial, but not too deep. I didn't really have a whole lot of people I could confide in. And the ones that I did, I don't think those friendships really worked out. A lot of those people, I have no idea where they are right now. I have no idea what they're doing. And it doesn't really feel like me confiding in them really helped in the end. And I think it has left me now feeling very disconnected from other people. I think I've always really struggled with attachment issues and, wanting so dearly to have somebody that I can always, grab onto and confide in and rely on. And when I have that, or when I am put into those scenarios where I can build these relationships, it is so difficult. And I don't know if it's self-sabotaging or love bombing or whatever it is, but I just completely shut down, or I put on a little bit of an act. I think something that is sort of similar is whenever I am with peers at school or work or whatever it may be, people that I'm not really super close with, I do feel like I get in these loops where I'm almost going off of a dialogue tree. And it's something that I don't even do consciously most of the time. And it's just, making crappy one-liners or jokes or just endlessly saying things that have there's no follow-up to it, and just being, at least to myself, very annoying. And it sort of puts a barrier in between me and the person I'm communicating with, to where we can grow our relationship or maybe become closer friends or whatever it may be. That is something I have always struggled with for years. And I think I'm getting better at it. And I think some of that is due to me wanting people to like me, and I want people to think I am funny, or, I'm not being moody or upset because I think I have like a resting bitch face and my voice is very monotone or whatever it may be. I'm very self-conscious about how people are perceiving me. And that worry about being judged or whatever blocks me from possibly connecting with the people that I would otherwise maybe become really close friends with, or that would accept me for who I really am. Not that there's a huge difference between maybe this act that I put on and my real self. I don't think I am wearing a mask or anything like that, but I think it's something that I get in my own head about, and something that I have really never fully been able to fix. And I don't know if I ever will. I don't think I have a really hard time reading social situations or even talking to strangers or anything like that. It's almost just like I have this idealized version of how I would like to communicate in my head. Every people say like, oh, well, that didn't quite come out right whenever they say like a joke or something like that. I think it's similar to that, where I have what I want to say versus what actually comes out of my mouth. And no matter how hard I try, I can write it down. I can sit down and record a video 500 times. I can talk to the same friends over and over and over again. I'm just not quite there. I'm not quite communicating what I really feel deep down in my stomach. I'm not able to put that aching feeling in my stomach that is giving me, like almost a headache into words. I think I'm getting better at it, but it is just something that I have been really struggling to talk about, because it's almost like a self-perpetuating cycle. Like I don't know how to talk about how I don't know how to talk. It's very weird. And like I sort of mentioned in the beginning of this video, I almost do get a little bit of imposter syndrome, because I have a whole channel talking about my feelings and my emotions and what have you. Yet here I am talking about how I feel like I can't even communicate properly. I think this is something that probably everyone experiences in some form, so I hope maybe someone was able to relate to this. But yeah, I got Twitter and stuff in the description. Also, got my second channel where I'm uploading bullshit about me talking about video games. So if you care about that, please check that out. And yeah, see you guys.